العالمين صلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا ثم أما بعد. الإمام النووي رحمه الله تعالى يقول في كتاب الأدب من رياض الصالحين, the book of good manners from رياض الصالحين, chapter باب إكرام الضيف, honoring the guest, and honoring the guest. If someone comes to you as a guest, are you obligated to offer hospitality or not, Jama'ah?
Yes.
What's the hukum of offering hospitality for a guest? Is it just a recommendation? It's up to you. Or is it obligatory? Ya Jama'ah. So why, if you believe it's obligatory, why don't you invite us to your house? What's the hukum on honoring the guest? That's number one. Second, what level, to what degree could you say that you've done your part in honoring the guest? That's what Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala will be explaining in this actually hadith in this chapter. قال الله تعالى هل أتاك حديث ضيف إبراهيم المكرمين إذ دخلوا عليه فقالوا سلاما قال سلام قوم منكرون فراغ إلى أهله فجاء بعجل سمين فقربه إليهم قال ألا تأكلون. SubhanAllah, this ayah, the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, with the three angels when they came on the way to destroy Qawm Lut, nasallahu al-afiyah. So they stopped by his house and they came in the form of human beings. Very handsome, beautiful, three young men. Ibrahim alayhi salam, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here, has the story reached you of the honored guest, the angels, of Ibrahim, when they came in to him and said salam. Qalu salam alaykum. That's basically, we talk about strangers. Strangers, they come to you saying assalamu alaikum. What do you tell them? Who are you? You say wa alaikum assalam. SubhanAllah, the beginning, and this is one of the beautiful things about Islam and Muslims. We always start with salam to break the ice. Right away. Once you say salam, you feel comfortable. Remember the last time you were in the airport, we were traveling somewhere, you felt kind of out of place. Suddenly someone passed by saying assalamu alaikum. You said, Ya Allah, alhamdulillah. It could be even non-Muslim. It's just saying salam, it makes you feel comfortable. So that's like an icebreaker over here, saying salam. And again, since they just started with salam, they're guests now. Khalas. He's now they're entitled to hospitality, and he feels in debt to them because they began with the salam. قَالَ سَلَامٌ قَوْمٌ مُنْكَرُونَ. Why do we know that they were strangers? Because he responded, he answered salam and said, you are people unknown to me. Means you're strangers. You must be strangers. So if they're strangers, what does that mean, Jama'ah? They needed help, right? Usually when you have, specifically back then, when cities were small and towns were small, villages were smaller than that. So anyone who's new, you can tell right away. So it says, you seems to be not from this area. It means, come over, let me feed you something. Because most likely they will be hungry on the road, travelers, so they might need our help. فَقَالَ فَسَلَامٌ قَوْمٌ مُنْكَرُونَ. He said, come on in for hospitality. فَرَاغَ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِ فَجَاءَ بِعِجْلٍ سَمِينٍ. He went straight to his family. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and he said, you are people unknown to me. Then he turned to his household and brought out a roasted calf. Can you imagine? 3 people plus Ibrahim alayhi salam. And he goes and he slaughters a whole cow for them. A whole cow. Not just a whole cow, Jama'ah. Roasted cow. You know what does that mean? How much time would it take to do that? To offer it? It means this whole entire time as he was with them, he was just offering hospitality for the guests. The food was not yet there, and he's just there entertaining the guests. One thing subhanAllah, so strange about the story, you will see soon. Throughout this whole period, as they were preparing the food, he even never asked them about their names. Because that's kind of a culture. These people basically, in the Arab culture particularly, they used in the past, when guests come in, they never asked about their names. Just Bismillah, cool. So their hospitality is completely objective. It's not because you're from the tribe, from our enemies. Sometimes they would feed their enemies. They would feed their enemies and sometimes know that they're their enemies. But because when it comes to hospitality, that's above that level. You just offer it regardless. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, he offered them now a whole cow. From this, we ask the question, how much hospitality should you offer a Jama'ah? These days, when people invite you over, what is your expectation for the food?
5 course meal.
At least, right? At least. That's, we don't come with the appetizers and the salads and the sweets and the fruit and all that stuff. That's not even counting that. Exactly. That's also, you tell them to bring something with them too. So usually when you go, when you're invited to people's house, you expect something huge. That's what you expect. Although it shouldn't be to that level, al-jud min al-mawjud. In the Arabic language we say al-jud min al-mawjud, which means hospitality is from that which is available. Whatever is available, that's what your hospitality is. You don't have to overburden yourself just for the sake of inviting people. One of the biggest problems we have in the Muslim community these days, people don't invite each other because of what?
Sure.
That's the thing. If I'm inviting people over, it's going to be a lot of I'm getting angry now. So eventually, as you see, the problem with the Muslim community now, these social gatherings are no longer just for the sake of getting together and just enjoy the time together. So there's so much stress on the family just to provide the best hospitality. So therefore, when someone invites you, you will say, thank you very much, I don't want to come. Why? Because you feel indebted to them that you're going to have to invite them over. And if they do something to you, you're going to have to do something similar or outdo it. You can't underdo that. So eventually this keeps escalating until you reach the level of inflation no one can afford anymore. So eventually the best way of hospitality these days is just, forget it. You don't have to invite anybody, you don't have to accept anyone's invitation. Please make it simple and easy. Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was able to afford 1 cow, alhamdulillah. If you can afford 1 cow, bismillah. Provided you don't throw anything away. Whatever food that you provide for hospitality, you do it and the rest of it, you divide that and give it, to other people. Or, mashallah, you have food for the next 2 weeks and at home. Regardless, you don't throw anything. You are allowed to offer a lot, but whatever you offer, you make sure you don't throw away anything. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, he offered this whole cow. Then قال فقربه إليهم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ibrahim, what he did, he placed it before them. In the Arabic language, not just before them, فقربه, which means like he pushed it towards them. It's not like these days, the style these days, the food is open buffet, right? Which means you put it on the table. That's our style these days. It's halal, I'm not saying it's haram. So basically, the food is there, and you tell the guest, Bismillah, you go and serve yourself. Now Ibrahim alayhi salam, he didn't want to burden the guest to walk in to get the food for himself. Instead, he brought the whole cow to them. And he pushed it towards them. Not towards himself, no, them first, the guest. فَقَرَّبَهُ إِلَيْهِ. The thing is, he didn't see their hands reaching the food. فَلَمَّا رَأَى أَنْ أَيْدِيهُمْ لَا تَصِلُ إِلَيْهِ. When he saw their hands not reaching the food, he kind of got worried, a little bit anxious. أَوْسَ فِي نَفْسِهِ خِيفٍ. He felt kind of uncomfortable. But then they told him who they were. So that means the entire time that he was entertaining the guests until the food was ready, he didn't even know that he was talking to angels. He said, listen, don't worry, we are also Rabbik. We are angels, we don't eat. And in this ayah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَقَرَّبُوا إِلَيْهِمْ قَالَ أَلَا تَأْكُلُونَ. Bismillah, go ahead. He's just given them the permission, to release the permission to eat. And when you say, when you tell the guest, go ahead, Bismillah, and eat, there is no limitation. You know what does that mean, Jama'ah? It means you try that over yourself, just leave some for other people. No, you don't put limitation on the guest. Once you open now, they give the permission to eat, they have the right to eat from anything that is available for them that you offer them. These days, you just offer one plate and take it away. Khalas, your turn is over, right? These are different styles, different traditions. Again, it's not that it's haram. Hospitality actually is offered in different cultures, different ways. as long as you do the haqq of the guest to be entertained in terms of food, in terms of feeling comfortable, not being restrained, in terms of you're enjoying this time with the host and so forth, that will be fine. Another thing, which is the one very important actually thing, is conversation. It seems that around the food, people don't, well, it depends again on the culture, don't converse very much because they're too busy right now in something more important, right? So as they eat, they don't like to converse. We can talk about this later when we have the Isha, inshallah ta'ala. They just now enjoy the meal. Actually, part of enjoying the meal itself is the conversation. In some other cultures, they say it's not an etiquette to speak while you're eating. Well, it's not an etiquette to speak while you're chewing the food. That's true. But to speak around, of course, the food and around meal, it's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. Even the Prophet ﷺ would do that. Salawatullah wasalam alayhi. Like in the very famous hadith of Shafa'ah, a long hadith about the journey of the hereafter, the Prophet ﷺ, he was eating when he gave us hadith. He had the meat in his hand, فَنَهَسَ نَهْسَةً. He took a bite. Then he started speaking, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. قَالَ أَنَا سَيِّدُ وَلَدْ آدَمَ وَلَا فَخْرٍ. I'm the master of the children of Adam, I'm not saying this out of pride. And he gave the long story of the Shafa'ah and the intercession on the day of judgment. So from this ayah we learn that the Prophet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and that's why the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he spoke highly of Ibrahim alayhi salam as being the most generous. He was one of the most generous people you can think of. It was reported about Ibrahim alayhi salam that he never ate alone. Ibrahim, he would never eat alone, alayhi salatu wasalam. If he doesn't find guests, he will walk out of the door, look for somebody walking on the street. Anybody. Anyone who passes by, Assalamu alaikum, come over here, I have some food for you. Anybody. Today you have one sandwich, you don't share it, right? Remember the good old days when you guys were younger, you used to share sandwich with each other? Have a bite here, have a bite there. Today it's all hygienic things and diseases and all, so just keep these things away from us. Again, these are all cultural practices. Hospitality is wajib. The Prophet ﷺ, he spoke of the hospitality for the guest. قال صلى الله عليه وسلم حق المسلم على المسلم. He mentioned the 5 حقوق, the rights of Muslims upon other Muslims. And one of these حقوق is actually إكرام الضيف, that you honor the guest. And he said صلى الله عليه وسلم that when you receive a guest, صلوات الله وسلام عليه, says the best hospitality is the one that is offered on the first day. Which means if you have guests that are going to be staying more than one day, then the first hospitality should be actually the first day. That's what the Prophet called it, جَائِزَتَهُ فَلْيُعْطِهِ جَائِزَتَهُ. That you offer this prize, the best. And then next day you can feed them from the leftover from yesterday. The third day you feed them something else, and after that you're not obligated to give anymore. Seriously. After that you have the right to tell them, Jazakallah khair, we're done. Of course, that's we're assuming that because of the kind of lifestyle they had back then, people always on the road, traveling between different destination villages and tribes. So that's how actually they do it. They need to stay somewhere. They didn't have hotels back then. So in this case, they would stay in other people's houses. Wallahu ta'ala. Any question, Imam?
Hospitality rules also stay for the in-laws.
Hospitality rules, does it apply to the in-laws? It's a lifesaver, yeah. So you have to.
Especially in the West.
Nah. Yes.
I just wanted to comment, Sheikh, about Assalamu alaikum, how it is an icebreaker. I truly experienced that firsthand. I traveled the state when I used to be a salesman.
No.
And I visited a lot of convenience stores and gas stations, which is owned by a lot of brothers, Muslims from all over.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting when I walk in, once we find out that we are Muslims, we say Assalamu alaikum. Some of them, after 5 minutes, they trusted me with the store. They say, can I go to the bathroom? Excuse me, can you watch the store for me? And they would walk away, seriously. Leave me behind the register for them. And this is the guy that I just met for 5 minutes. Subhanallah, it was. It's so calming when you see somebody and you say Assalamu alaikum, you feel like you're at peace.
I had this same encounter just this past weekend. When I first arrived in New Jersey, so we stopped by a gas station, the same thing. So So as we were stopping there, buying something, you can tell that the person on the other side is actually he looked Muslim. So the moment he saw me, immediately he looks at me, he goes, Assalamu alaikum. I said, Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. And subhanAllah, you start a conversation just like you said, as if you know the person for ages already.
Yeah.
I've never seen him in my life. I don't even know if I'm going to ever see him again in my life. And when I arrived here at the airport, I went actually to get a cup of coffee from one of the coffee shops there at the airport. The lady behind the cash, she also looked Muslim. Even though she was wearing hijab, I can tell that she looked Muslim. SubhanAllah, so I just intentionally said Assalamu alaikum. So the moment you said Assalamu alaikum, she had that big smile on her face, which means, Alhamdulillah, at least someone recognized that I'm Muslim. But these are icebreakers. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ says, he said, Salawatullah wasalam, that one of the ways of spreading peace and love amongst you, he says, قَالَ أَلَا أَدُلُّكُمْ عَلَى شَيْءٍ إِذَا فَعَلْتُمُهُ تَحَبَبْتُمْ. Shall I guide you to do something that if you do it among yourself, you would love one another? He said, أَفْشُوا السَّلَامَ بَيْنَكُمْ, spread salam amongst you. And subhanAllah, that's exactly what it is. It's an icebreaker. Nah, Allah. Yes. Let's start with the first one.
Yeah, the first one is I heard that even before during the Jahiliyyah time, the people in Arab, they are not good people, but still they are
The question is regarding the Arab predating Islam in the Jahiliyyah. Even though they were not Muslims and they didn't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they believed in idols and statues and so on, but they were very good people when it comes to hospitality. Is that true? The answer is absolutely. As a matter of fact, if you read the Arabic tradition and culture, from the poetry, from the folklore, the stories of the Bedouins before Islam, these people actually have the pure culture of hospitality. The reason they became the most hospitable people, you know why? Because of the harsh environment they lived in. They lived in desert. And desert means scarcity of everything. Food, water, shade, rest, comfort. All of this doesn't exist when you're traveling for the Arabs. So therefore, if anyone wanted to keep for themselves a legacy, or they wanted to keep for themselves an honor or name after they die, they were racing and competing to be the most hospitable. And that's when people pass by, there is something called in the Arabic language, there's a proverb said that this person, his fire is never extinguished, never just sets off. What's the meaning of that? Because at night, these Bedouins who live in the desert, they used to light fire, campfires around their tents. Why is that? To guide people who are traveling in the desert to come over. Means just to, if you need any help, if you need water, if you need food, if you need shelter, we have it for you. There's another proverb in the Arabic language, they said, Fulanun jabanul kalb. This person, his dog is too coward. Why is that? The dog is usually, when it sees a stranger, what does it do? Start barking, right? But if it gets used to commuters and people and so on, it becomes used to that. So therefore it doesn't bark. So they say his dog is too coward to bark. Why? It got used to the crowd, to the people, because of their hospitality. Also they say Fulan Rafi'ul Aman, meaning his Rafi'ul Aman, that means the post and the pillar, I don't know what they call it actually, of the tent. The main post in the tent is so high. And when you have the pillar or the post of the tent is so high, just like the mast of the ship, that means the tent itself expands larger, actually, bigger. So they say that it's very huge because it always receives guests, and he needs to have room for that. So yeah, indeed, for them it was a big honor to honor the guests. Until today, honestly, when you go to the original Arab societies over there, the indigenous Arab communities until this day were not influenced by, unfortunately, different foreign cultures, you will see the same thing. They're very hospitable. They're willing to kill all their animals just to feed you. Because for them it's a great honor to honor a guest, regardless who you are. No. I'll be part of that. Alhamdulillah. Any questions, Imam? Yes.
And how do we actually salam in Islam? Do we just say when salam was
The other prophets?
We can see in the tradition of other.
No. When you say salam, is that the same tradition of the other prophets before Islam, before Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? I would say very much yes, because even in Judaism right now, in Hebrew language, how do they greet each other, Jama'ah? Shalom Aleichem, which is exactly salam alaikum, but it's just in their pronunciation. Aramaic is another Semitic language, which was the language of Isa alayhi salam. So it's similar to Hebrew, has connection to the Arabic language, and it would be the same thing. It will be similar to that pronunciation. Isa alayhi salam, when he was allegedly on the cross, what was he saying? It's the only phrase in the Bible, in the English Bible, that is mentioned in Aramaic. When he was allegedly again on the cross, he was saying, Ilahi, Ilahi, lema shabaktani, which sounds in the Arabic language like this, Ilahi, Ilahi, lima taraktani. It sounds exactly the same. It means, my Lord, why have you forsaken me? So the pronunciation would be similar. Did they have the same pronunciation of salam? Not necessarily the exact pronunciation, but the exact concept of spreading peace. Wallah. Your second question.
The second question was, if the guest was very guest, and if the guest is kind of a greasy,
Some guest, huh? Yeah. Basically, if the guest is taking advantage of the host, do you still have the obligation to honor the guest? Well, definitely. I mean, honoring the guest is when the guest is actually is most abusive. Yeah. Because if the guest is good, you're not going to be any different from other people, right? Everybody will feed and honor the good guest. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira thumma amma ba'd. Last night we started speaking about a very important topic, ya ikhwan, from Riyadh al-Salihin. You still remember it? What is it? Hospitality. Al-Diyafa. How to be generous with your guests. We spoke about the type of different styles and the example of Ibrahim alayhi salam as one of those beautiful examples of hospitality alayhi salatu wassalam. Here's Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala fi kitab al-adab, the book of good manners from Riyadh al-Salihin, the same chapter, Babu Ikram al-Dayf, honoring the guest. قال عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليكرم ضيفه ومن كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليصل رحمه ومن كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليقل خيرا أو ليصمت. متفق عليه. This hadith has three statements, and each one of them deserves wallahi a whole seminar just to talk about. The first one, the Prophet ﷺ says in this hadith, قال من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليكرم ضيفه. He who believes in Allah and the last day must not, he said, فليكرم ضيفه, should honor his guest. They switched actually the translation here. Anyway, the translation, the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says, من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليكرم ضيفه. Anyone who believes in Allah and the last day should show hospitality to his guest. Ya akhwa, look at this statement. من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر. How equivalent that is to it, anyway. I mean, look at this. When you talk about believing in Allah and the final day, what is that to you, Iman?
Iman?
Is that Iman, right? What's the value of it? Is it obligatory, mustahab, haram? Usul is. My usul is students. What is that? That's obligatory, right? How do we know that? Because Allah is putting it at the value of what? Believing in Allah and the final day. مَنْ كَانَ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. If you truly believe in Allah and the final day, guess what Allah is telling you? Honor your guest. Look at this. The comparison. So the level of honoring the guest, the importance of honoring the guest, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this hadith is putting it at the same footing of what? Believing in Allah and the final day. Again, remember we spoke about that level of hospitality yesterday. So people sometimes they overdo it too much, that when they do it once and they stop doing it again. Khalas, I've done it for the rest of the year. Alhamdulillah. It doesn't have to be that way. It's very simple and easy, and that's it. You can bring people just for a cup of tea and coffee and we're done. Alhamdulillah. It doesn't have to be always, mashallah, all this kebab and kuftas and rices and biryanis, and it doesn't have to be that way. It's very simple. Show hospitality to your guest. Again, the Prophet is making at the level of believing in Allah and the final day. See how important that is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, وَمَنْ كَانَ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ فَلْيَصِلْ رَحِمَهُ. And anyone who believes in Allah and the final day, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, should maintain the tie of the kinship and the family. Maintain the good relationship with your family. Again, look at this. Being nice and kind to your family and in-laws, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it at the level of what? They believe in Allah and the final day. And finally he said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَمَنْ كَانَ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ فَلْيَقُلْ خَيْرًا أَوْ لِيَصْمُتْ. And anyone who believes in Allah and the last day should speak good or remain silent. The same thing at that level. Speaking good or remain silent is as level as believing in Allah and the final day. So again, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is bringing these adab and akhlaq and manners at the level of believing in Allah and the final day, that shows how important and significant that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To us it might not be that significant, but to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala it is that significant. That is at that level of believing in Allah and the final day. So you make sure inshallah ta'ala to keep that in your mind. That whatever you do, that you honor your guests, you keep the good ties with your family, and if you're going to be speaking, just be good. Otherwise, remain quiet. Wallahu a'lam. Any question you know? Yes. Wow. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
Days that you can fast on that day, some people want they take the fast the whole time. So,
like you?
Yeah, I do want that.
Of course. How old are you now?
14.
You should fast the whole time. When Ramadan begins, you're no longer now at the time of saying, can I just fast every other day? No, you're old enough right now to fast the entire month of Ramadan, inshallah. You can do it, right? I know, but you're going to keep doing it. Don't look for escape. I'm not going to give you that exit. Fair, inshallah. You come to later to talk to me in detail, inshallah. Hold on.
As far as hospitality, when it comes to your parents visiting our siblings, does it apply the same that we do, or because the parents are obligated to
When it comes to hospitality, we said that you're obligated to give the hospitality for 3 days. It's going to come perhaps tomorrow, inshallah, or after tomorrow, speak about it. The Prophet said, hospitality should be the minimum 3 days. Again, put that in the same context. Back then, people when they travel, they have no hotels, no place to stay, no shelters except for those who are on the road. So that's when they come to your place, you should honor them and give them that hospitality to stay for 3 days and 3 nights. After that, it becomes optional. Or mustahab to keep them if you want to. When it comes to people to whom you are responsible, like your children, your spouse, your parents, they deserve the highest level of hospitality. But it's not limited to 3 days. Because these are your responsibility, and they should always be felt. They shouldn't even feel like guests in your house. They shouldn't feel guests. They are the host. It's their place usually. And usually the highest level of hospitality is when you treat your guest as if you're the guest in their presence. That's the highest level of hospitality. That's why they say in the Arabic language, when they meet someone or if someone comes over, they would say, "Halalta ahlan wa nazalta sahlan." Halalta ahlan, which means you come in as a family. Means the moment you enter the house, you're no longer a guest, you're a family. Khalas. And when you treat them as family, it's like and it's an obligation to turn them in the best way possible with love and of course with respect. When azalta sahlan, and may you stay being easy, and as if you come into a level soft state. So may Allah make this easy for you. That's the meaning of that. Wallahu a'lam. So parents, of course, and family members in particular closer to you that you're obligated to take care of them like parents, they are good. Actually, they're not just guests, more than that. Wallahu a'lam. No.
If I ask a question about الإيمان باليوم الآخر واليوم الآخر.
No.
We know that if you don't believe in the Allah واليوم الآخر, that becomes kufr, right?
Of course.
So when you put the obligatory part of it, of honoring the guest on that level, that means if you don't do it, what's the...
We said that believing in Allah on the final day is obligatory. Of course. It's even if you don't believe, it's an act of kufr. So when you put right now the issue of honoring the guest at that level, does it mean if you don't honor the guest, it's an act of kufr? No. It's just to show significance and importance. That's all. It's an act of, for example, of course, for example, عقوق الوالدين is haram, but it's not kufr, right? It's haram. However, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings the issue of عقوق الوالدين being undutiful to your parents, He always associates that with what? With shirk billah. And also respecting your parents and being dutiful to your parents, it's always associated with what? Believing in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to show significance and importance. Wallahu a'lam. No.
Sheikh, if you have some guests over and they do some acts which are not come to in Islam, for example, and they can come to your house and they put music or something, or they bring a laptop and they start watching movies.
The guests?
Yeah.
Some guests you have, mashallah.
so in that situation, what should we do?
If you have guests coming over and they start acting haram things in your house, you're responsible to them if you don't mind. I appreciate if you don't play that. I don't want to hear it if you don't mind. Well, just watch this, let me show you this. He said, Jazakallah khair, I rather not to listen to this. Be firm about this issue. Well, I'm afraid to embarrass them, blah, blah, blah. I mean, let them get embarrassed, ya akhi. You're saving their skin from Jahannam if it's something haram. And you inshallah getting the reward for that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَتَخْشَوْنَهُمْ فَاللَّهُ حَقًّا تَخْشَوْ. Are you afraid of them? You should be afraid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah.
How far should you go?
Surat al-Rahim, how far should you go in connecting with your extended family? Some of the Mufassirin, they say it's actually the 7th generation. Based on the ayah of Surah Al-Kahf. وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا. And their father, their forefather, was actually a righteous person. And they said in the tafsir, he was talking about the 7th generation. That's, of course, it's a speculation of tafsir. For the ulama, they say up to the 7th generation. Today, you barely know even your nephews and your nieces. Let alone your cousins and distant cousins, Allah musta'an. So if you can maintain the closest circle, jazakallah khair. Saddidu wa qarib. So if the imam is not there, the question is the imam is not coming to the salah. If the iqamah hasn't been set up yet, basically the question is, when should I stand up to prepare for the salah? You stand up to prepare for the salah when you see the imam coming in. Do I have to wait for the iqamah to be called for? You don't have to. When you see the imam coming in, the meaning of the imam coming in to lead the salah, not coming into the masjid. You might be coming in to sit in the office. But when the imam is coming with the position of salah, that's when you start standing up or lining up for the salah. By the time the iqamah is over, the imam will be ready for the salah and the lines will be perfect. That's how they used to do with the Prophet ﷺ. Sometimes Bilal would call him actually for the iqamah. Like on one of these occasions, the Prophet ﷺ was speaking with someone in the back of the masjid. Seems to be very significant that even though Bilal finished the iqamah, the Prophet ﷺ was still speaking with him. He didn't move to the position of salah until actually he finished speaking to the man. Wallahu a'lam.
Question about fishing. There's some people do fish catch and release. Is that permissible?
Fish catch and then they release it back into the what is that? Just sport? Kind of sport? Just basically catch the fish and then just take pictures with them to throw it back again to the into the lake. Is that for? the thing is that the question is, is that torture? Because how do you catch the fish? You're going to have to hook it basically with something. Will that be considered torture? And النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال في الحديث نهى أو النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم نهى أن يتخذ شيء فيه الروح غرض. The Prophet forbade us from taking anything that has ruh as a gharad, which means like game. So would that apply to it? Well, it seems to be that it applies to it.
How about,
And fishing it to eat it is one thing, but fishing it just to catch and then throw it back again.
how about teaching the kids about fishing? You just catch and release it all.
Yeah, if you catch it, eat it. Why do you have to put it back there? If you want to teach the kids, catch and throw it back again.
Put this way.
It's the lake. I know what you're saying. There's ordinance that you're not allowed to take the fish out of the lake. Just you fish it, put it back again there, right? Is that what you're saying?
What if it's too small?
Yeah, certain particular lakes and certain sites.
Smaller than that size.
Yeah, there's a size.
Oh, the size of the fish, you're
It's
saying.
smaller than that, you cannot bring it back. Otherwise, you
Khalas, then alhamdulillah, if you catch the fish that is on the size that you can take with you, take it with you. If it wasn't, just put it back again. Just throw it back again. That's, I hope inshallah it'll be fine. Because you're fishing right now, but now you're fishing the wrong one. So in this case, just put it back there. And say, give an apology.
we're going to some people that have concern for this, and then we check.
I have that concern too. I do have that concern. If someone is just going there just for the sake of fishing and throwing back again, then I would say no. But if you go fishing to get the big ones, but you end up with the smaller ones you're not allowed to take out, just put it back, inshallah, it should be fine.
If you're praying sunnah and they make the iqamah,
No.
just say salam as you're standing.
If you pray the sunnah and they call the iqamah, if you are towards the end, finish it. Which means if you can join the salah before the imam gives his takbir, then finish your sunnah. But if you're not going to be able to catch the imam in the takbir to the haram, just give your salam. So if you are standing, you give salam while standing. If not, if you are sitting down, just give the salam while you're sitting down. And then join the imam. That's better for you. Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala's opinion is different. Abu Hanifa's opinion is that once you start ibadah, you cannot finish it. You cannot actually break it until you finish it. So that's why you see sometimes some people, when they hear the imam, the iqamah is being called for, they still finish the salah, even though they might miss actually rak'ah sometimes with the imam, which is not supposed to happen. Allah.
One salam?
One salam is sufficient, because eventually a salam is actually on the right side, it's obligatory. The second one is mustahab. Now, last question.
صلة الرحم، تعريف صلة الرحم هي كثرة الاتصالات، كثرة الزيارات، وعدم القطيعة.
Now, how do you identify or define Salat al-Rahim, maintaining the ties with the family and the kinship? There is no specific definition. And I cannot say it depends on how many times you call, sending a postcard, text message, Kul Amtum bi Khair, all that. I cannot say that. This is called wajib, and it's an obligation, but it's not necessarily identified. So it depends on the time and the culture. What do they consider Salat al-Rahim? And in our time, unfortunately, the family, the connection of the families actually are very loose. So therefore, you will not be able to connect with your second, third cousins as would you do with your brothers and sisters. And you're not even with brothers and sisters anymore. So if you're distant, away from them, at least check on them by calling, sending, let's say, letters, emails, anything that could connect with them, inshallah ta'ala, would be fine. Today, even in Jama'ah, even Facebook,